Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar about leads lifecycle automation. Please do stay until the very end as we'll reveal a special offer for new users at the end of the webinar. But first, I'd like to introduce our speakers for today. First, we have Ellen, who's channel manager at LinkedIn, and we have Danielle, who's app solution architect at Make. As for myself, Frank Baudet, I'm the Vice President of Ecosystem at Make, and I will be your host for the webinar. Let's look at the agenda for today. We will start with some introductions about LinkedIn, introductions about Make, and then we'll turn our attention to the challenges around lead lifecycle. And to show how Make and LinkedIn together address those challenges, we will offer you a demo, a live demo. There will be time for Q&A at the end. Please use the Zoom Q&A, not the chat function. It will be moderated, and we'll try to answer all the questions at the end. If we don't have time, we'll make sure to follow up with you after the webinar. I will now hand over to Ellen, who will tell you more about LinkedIn lead gen forms and LinkedIn matched audiences, and share with you some best practices and tips. Ellen, over to you.
Thank you, Frank, for that intro, and welcome again, everyone, to this webinar. We are delighted to have you here. So I'm going to kick off with a groundbreaking stat, at least I think it's groundbreaking, and that is that 71% of companies say that closing deals is their top sales priority. So what we're going to see here today is how effective lead generation can actually help you get to that objectives. So one of the things that we have at LinkedIn is we see a lot of companies, and all these companies have a lot of different challenges, but I think we can summarize them in 3 main points. So first of all, we see that often when we have our initial outreach to a completely new audience to us, we sometimes don't get a response. That can be not a click on our advertisement, that can be no reaction or no click or not even an open on an email, or no response to the phone call. Then the second challenge is, even if you have that first engagement, maybe that has gone well, but then conversations just stop in the middle after 1 or 2 touch points. Or later in the cycle, so you can't seem to close a deal. So sales cycles seem to go on forever and ever. No decision is being made, even though that you've delivered the demo, you had good conversations, and the only last thing to do really was to sign a contract. So those are common challenges that we see, and we hope that today we can actually help you address some of those challenges. So as a marketer, how you can do this is you can drive quality leads that turn into more conversions and hopefully eventually more customers, because that's what we all want. Now on LinkedIn, the good thing is we are the largest professional network, and that means that you can reach quality audiences at scale. When I say larger quality audiences, I mean that you're not just going to engage with your final decision maker. You're not probably going to engage with the person that's going to sign a contract. It's very important to engage with a wider buying committee. So that means also influencers, maybe even the users of your product or the solution that you're trying to sell. Because very often the execs and the C-suite leadership aren't actually the ones using the product or solution. So someone else in the team might have brought this to their attention. The good thing is people come to LinkedIn with a business mindset. So all you are doing is reaching them where they're already thinking business. And then what we can also do is your audience is already there. Now you need to think about how you are going to engage with them. And the good thing is that we have solutions that you can use across the funnel. And you see a few formats here on the screen. And these are all that you can use across the funnel to reach your buyer where they're at. So we already know they're thinking business, but some of them may actually be a bit more advanced in their conversation with you than others. So what you can do is you can create a tailored way that matches their mindset. You can engage with buyers across that funnel in different ways, meeting them where they're at, which is very important. You can do that with different types of content. And I'm sure you all know the awareness, consideration, and conversion phase. Then you can achieve lead generation at different stages of the funnel. So from teaching to selling, it might come across. That being said, I think we want to zoom in on 2 things today. So we want to take a closer look at account-based marketing, which allows you to really reach new clients, but also engage those that you're already talking to. And then we also want to look at lead generation. And lead generation on the platform actually drives higher conversions than off platform. And we'll look at that more in detail in a second. But these two things are really what, let's say, make your dollar go towards quality engagement. So let's dive into the first one, which is account-based marketing. Account-based marketing, I will also give a heads up, can also be called matched audiences. We use these interchangeably, really. And what this allows you to do is drive more efficient lead generation, but also not to forget lead nurturing, which can be very important as well at different stages of the funnel. So for those that are a little bit newer in the marketing space, matched audiences or account-based marketing can be done on the platform by uploading or syncing a list coming from your CRM. So you can sync a contact list or a company list. And then this list will be matched to members or companies on LinkedIn. And then once these are matched, you can add them to a campaign, which means that you can say, hey, these are 100 companies that I would like to reach. And then with those companies, you can combine that with another targeting facet, because obviously I don't want to reach everyone that works at the same company. Sales might not be relevant for me, but I want to talk to the IT people. So then I can layer over, for example, the function information technology. If I'm looking for a specific level of seniority, I can also layer that over. So what we generally see with account-based marketing is that the deal size eventually is larger because you're often reaching the relevant people, but you're also reaching those companies that are already like filtered by you because obviously you've put them on a list. You also see an increased number of pipeline opportunities. And this also helps you with your sales and marketing alignment, which is very important. I want to give you one sort of takeaway. If you don't take anything away from this webinar today, at least you'll have this. So one of the strategies that we often see a lot of our customers do is get a list of companies that your sales team is already talking to. This list of companies, we're already at the table, we have already generated leads, but the person that might eventually sign the contract could be a CFO, CMO, CTO, but you might never even speak to this person because it's their team that's leading this. For example, if we're looking at Microsoft, it's not Bill Gates who's going to eventually download your white paper. It will probably be someone else. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't need to, get Bill Gates on board and saying, hey, actually, I do think that this is very valuable for us. So you want to build trust. And what you can do is, for example, Microsoft can be on this list or any other company that you want to target. And then you can say, I want to reach senior executives at this company. You'll probably reach them with a piece of content that is all around trust and addresses objections that people might have when they consider your product. So if you're not taking anything else away, at least try that strategy. But obviously, we're not going to stop here. So we also touched upon lead generation. And lead generation, we have forms that are available on LinkedIn, so in platform. And this is the bread and butter of this series, I will say. So the in-platform experience means that there is a mobile desktop app experience that is all tailored for the prospect that you're trying to reach. And this very tailored and very easy, simple approach takes no effort and is the best experience that you can offer to a user. And very easy as well, because it actually pre-fills forms with member profile data. This all leads to you being able to generate 5 times more leads without sacrificing the quality of the leads, all on the platform. So eventually that means more leads at scale, very easy to prove their return on investment, and you have instant access to your leads as well. And I see that Daniel has already changed the slides there for me to what this might look like on LinkedIn. So what you see here in front of you, it was a lot what I covered before, but this is what it could potentially look like. So you can go from the awareness stage where you present with a video ad. You can turn that then to a single image ad and to a message ad. And you can see here that ABM and lead gen can fit right in at more than one step of each funnel or at each stage. So for example, we see a lead gen form in step 2 in consideration, but we also see that turn up again at the end. And ABM can really, come in any stage here, depending on what's relevant for your business. So that was, again, a lot. but then I also don't want to give you any more work than you already have, because I think we're all very, very busy these days. So what we do at LinkedIn is we work with a number of partners, and all these partners can help you automate most of what I just covered. And one of our very valuable partners is also Make. And now, Frank, I'm going to pass it over to you, because Frank and Daniel afterwards are going to tell you more about how we work together with Make.
Absolutely. Thank you, Helen. So let's start with the obvious question. What is Make actually? Well, Make allows anyone to visually design, build, and automate anything from small tasks to complex workflows and systems without the need for coding expertise. You can connect apps to build powerful workflows in minutes and scale your business faster than ever. So when we say everyone, when we say Make empowers everyone to innovate without limits, we do mean everyone. I mean, you don't have to be a developer to be able to use Make. I'm not a developer myself, and I'm able to use Make. Danielle, who will be presenting shortly, is not a developer user. We're just business users. At the same time, Make also allows for very complex use cases. It's really up to you, and it depends on the scope of your challenges. You know what the best part is? We're not talking about months. We're not talking about weeks. We're not even talking about days to get started. We're talking about hours, literally. So before we turn back to LinkedIn, let me just share some numbers with you about Make. Make was launched in 2016, formerly Integromat. We have 1 million users across the globe. That's quite a bit, spread across 180 countries. You may know some of those customers like Zalando, United Nations, Meta, Spotify, Bank of New York, Mellon, Cisco. Those are all names that are fairly significant. And we're connecting to 1,600 apps and services. So talking about LinkedIn, last year, Make only had LinkedIn as an integration, which is used to manage your company's page presence. But this year alone, we've added 5 new apps, mainly covering LinkedIn marketing solutions. And these are great to support use cases for LinkedIn ads. The most recent addition is LinkedIn Lead Gen Forms for Events, an app which allows you to listen for leads signing up to your company's events. I'm now going to hand over to Daniel, who will show you how you can use some of these apps to streamline your lead lifecycle. Daniel's demo will be showing you how to work with LinkedIn Lead Gen Forms. This is, by the way, the most used app. Make is processing around 7,000 leads as of last month, and that's growing every single month. We'll look at LinkedIn Matched Audiences and LinkedIn Ads Campaign Management. Daniel, over to you.
Hello, everyone. So before we dive into the actual scenarios, let me decode the lifecycle keyword for you, because that's probably what caught your attention when you signed up via our ads, right? Or when you read our newsletter. So what do we mean with the leads lifecycle? What is the deal? What is the challenge we are solving here? So you guys, as advertisers, you are probably having already very good campaigns. And I mean that you have very good targeting, you have very good messaging, you have very nice banners, but still it may not be enough to run a successful campaign, because there might be quite a few technical challenges on your way, which you may or may not be facing. So let's look at those 3 challenges, which we will solve with Make today. So the first one, Ellen already touched on that topic, lead gen forms. So today, when you run B2B campaign, promoting your product or service, you will frequently use lead gen forms embedded into marketing platforms. That means that the traffic is no longer hitting your landing page like it used to, a few years ago when these lead gen forms were not available. So a few years back, you would just land the traffic to your landing page. They would fill out a form, and with the help of your IT guys, you will take that form information and push it to your CRM. Today, when you are using the forms on LinkedIn or any other marketing platform, you cannot just ask your IT guys, hey, can you listen for these LinkedIn lead gen form submissions and pass this information to my CRM, because they simply don't have access, right, to those APIs and systems. And that's where Make comes in, because we can connect to lead gen forms take the lead information and push it to your CRM in real time. So that's problem number two. Sorry, that was the problem number one. The problem number two is related to the cookie extension, right? So cookies are dying, let's face it. Sooner or later, they will be just dead. And this means that your tracking is probably broken. And if it's not completely broken today, it's probably like 40, 30% broken, depending on how user-friendly your cookie consent is. And another issue is, which was already stated, the traffic is no longer going to your website in such volumes. So the pixels which you use to track audiences, track conversions, just capture incomplete information these days. And with Make, you can solve this problem by providing your first-party data, for example, from your CRM, like contact information, and push it from Salesforce or any other CRM to LinkedIn matched audiences, where you can use this data again for future campaigns, or maybe you can use this audience data for creating lookalike audiences for your new campaigns in future, right? So not only that we will get the data from LinkedIn, we will also push it back from your CRM to LinkedIn matched audiences. And the third, it's kind of evergreen problem, it's reporting. We frequently see that it's kind of underestimated topic among organizations. And you as advertiser, you spend money to make money, right? It's simple math. But even if you are making money, you still have to prove it to your boss, maybe to your CFO, to your CEO. So these people give you budget for next month, next quarter, and next year, right? And without nice, accessible reports, you can't really prove your point. Of course, you can still keep going to LinkedIn's interface and pull out the data manually there, and maybe then export it and compile it in Google spreadsheet and run a pivot on the top. But with Make, you can streamline this process and you can get this data automatically from LinkedIn to a Google Sheet spreadsheet, which I will be demoing today, but not only to Google Sheets. So we will look at these three problems, and that is what constitutes the life cycle. And the best part, again, let me restate this. You don't need to know any coding. Like, I'm not a developer. In fact, fun fact, I used to be an advertiser. 7 years I've been doing performance marketing until I joined Make last year. So I am actually one of you. I'm not a developer at all. Okay, so I guess enough talking for now. Let's start looking at something real. So I'm going to escape the presentation and we will look at Make website first. There is one important thing. This webinar is, of course, about LinkedIn and Make and how well we play together. But for example, you may want to check whether your CRM is supported, right? I will be demoing Salesforce, but maybe you are using something else than Salesforce. It's a different CRM. So here on our pages, there is apps and services section where you can quickly see which apps we support. And as of today, it's almost 1,300, which Frank already mentioned. And you can just quickly search, for example, for all the LinkedIn apps, right? And you can see the supported apps, or maybe you would be interested in Salesforce, right? So yes, we do support Salesforce because at the end of the day, that's what I will be using, but maybe you want to try something more generic like CRM, right? And we will give you the list of all CRMs which we support. And by the way, of course, CRMs are one of the most supported category on Make. Okay. So keep in mind that this exists. And by the way, you can also browse the apps by categories and subcategories. So it's very user-friendly to make your way around. So now let me switch over to my organization at Make. This is what we call your instance when you sign up and you create your account. And after a few days, you will likely have some active scenarios running. So this dashboard will not be completely blank and it will look very similar to mine. So what do we see actually here? Here at the top, I see my operations consumption, which basically is just the sum and trends for the current billing cycle. Here at the bottom, I see my active scenarios. And by scenarios, I mean the automations which are running and are in place and are processing data regularly. And here we can see lots of menu items on this side and here at the top right. I'm not going to go through all of them because it's not important at this point, but I want to stress out one important piece here, and that is templates. So templates are pre-built scenarios for you. So for example, if you don't have time to learn Make, or you don't want to learn it at all, it is highly possible that the problem you are solving has been already solved with a template. So for example, let's check out the template which we have for LinkedIn lead gen forms. And we can see that in this case, we have roughly 20 templates built for you already. So if I wanted to take my leads from LinkedIn and push them to ActiveCampaign, for example, I could just use this template and I wouldn't even have to build that scenario from scratch. You know, here we give you more details about the template and some visualizations. And when you go for it, you will actually go through this scenario builder with these little tooltips where we tell you in a very user-friendly way what to do in each bubble. By the way, the bubble, these round things, we call them modules officially. And this is how templates work. So keep that in mind that something like this exists, and templates allow you to get started very quickly, even if you know absolute zero about Make. All right. So let me go back to scenarios and let's start talking about the automations, which I've prepared for this webinar. So when I go to scenarios here, this is the list of all my scenarios in my Make organization. Since I work here, I do, of course, have quite a few of them. But for this webinar, I've grouped the relevant scenarios into this LinkedIn webinar folder. And we can see I have just 3 of them. So the first scenario will be processing leads from LinkedIn to Salesforce. The second will be pushing converted leads from Salesforce back to LinkedIn. And the third scenario will be pushing the performance data from LinkedIn to a Google Sheet spreadsheet. All right. So let's go to the first scenario. The first scenario is very simple. I will just briefly describe what it does, and then we will run it for real with a real form submission on LinkedIn. All right, so first we will get a notification about the incoming lead. Then we will retrieve the lead details. Then we will create a new lead in Salesforce, and then we will send ourselves a notification to Slack that a new lead has arrived. So let's do exactly that. I'm gonna go to LinkedIn and I'm gonna pull up my favorite character, which is, of course, Joe Doe. This is the most favorite character in the programming world, right? And Joe Doe sees this very nice ad about Make. And because Joe Doe likes automation, he wants to learn more about the product. So he is going to sign up for a demo, right? So when he clicks the sign up button, the lead form opens. If my profile was completed, the phone number would be already pre-filled, as Helen mentioned. Even the company would be pre-filled. Since my profile is dummy, I will just use some random number and I will use Joe Doe Company as my company name, and I will submit the lead. Now, after submitting the lead, it's basically on the way to Make. Usually, it takes between 10 to 30 seconds for the lead to hit Make. In the real world, you would not even notice the lead got processed. But because I want to show you, I want to run the scenario once, and I want to show you, how it progresses, what the modules are doing, and how the information is presented, etc. So don't think that when you are building these integrations that, if you don't get the lead into Make right at the very first second after you press that submit button, that something is wrong. No, it's not. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of time. In this case, as I said, it's between 10 to 30 seconds. So let me refresh the page and see whether the lead is already waiting in my queue here. Okay, voila, the lead is waiting to be processed. And as I said, in the real world, it would just be processed by the scenario automatically and you would not even notice. I am now gonna run this scenario once to show you how the lead is actually being processed, all right? So let's exactly do that. So now we can see the notification is received, the extra details about the lead were retrieved from LinkedIn. We created the lead in Salesforce, and then we sent ourselves the notification to Slack. But did it really work, right? What if I'm lying? Well, let me show you in Salesforce and Slack. So when I go to my list of open leads, which were not seen yet in Salesforce, it's currently blank. When I refresh the page, we will see our Joe Doe waiting there. So let me refresh the page. And voila, Joe Doe is here. And I have even added the timestamp of my submission, right? So you can see that I'm kind of trustworthy person and I'm right that it worked. So this lead was created at 17:27, and let's see what's inside. Did we get all the personal details from LinkedIn? Yes, we did. So we have the email of Joe Doe, we have his phone number, we have his company. I even set a custom lead source, which is custom field in Salesforce, and I put the campaign name to description. The campaign name could be very well yet another custom field in Salesforce. All right, so far so good. This worked, no issues here. What about Slack? Did I get the notification to Slack? Yes, I did. We can see that at 5:27, I got the notification saying, hey, there was a new lead on LinkedIn from Joe Doe, from this company. And if I clicked this link, I would be again taken to Salesforce. So let's go back to the scenario and look at more details, what's actually happening there. So here we just get the notification that something happened on LinkedIn. Here we receive the extra data about the lead. The mappable answers is what we are after, right? So we want to get the name, email, phone number, and company name. And here in the Salesforce module, that's basically where the magic starts, where the real stuff happens. So the way how it works in Make is that you basically map the items coming from the preceding modules to the fields in the existing module. So for example, if this last name wasn't mapped, how would I go about it? Well, what did I do when I was building the scenario? It's very simple. It's all drag and drop based. So I would just take this last name coming from the LinkedIn module. You can see that it's actually popping on you when I hover over it. And then I would just drag and drop it into this field in Salesforce, right? And I just said, hey, take the last name from LinkedIn and put it to the last name field in Salesforce. And in the similar fashion, I'm at company, I'm at phone, email, etc. However, you may have noticed that there is something weird, right? There is this format date now and this HHMMSS. What does it mean? Well, if you know Excel or Google Sheet formulas, you should listen more now. At Make, you can even use inline functions to run basic transformations. So what I did, if you remember, when I go to here, we can see that I added the timestamp into Joe Doe's name to demonstrate. It was really that submission which I did. And the way how I did that is that I used the current time and I wrapped it in the formatted functions with this format. This is not from me to confuse you. I'm just demonstrating that you can use these inline functions, and we have many of them. So we have logical functions here. We have math functions here. We have text functions. We have date time, and we even have array functions for super power users. So with these functions, you can do crazy things. But most of the time, you don't even need them. It's mostly about mapping the items coming from the preceding modules into the fields of the current module. And that's how the information passes from one module to another. We can also check out the configuration of the Slack module. So we can see that here I am using static text strings and I'm mapping only some of the items coming from LinkedIn again, right? And here I'm forming the Salesforce URL, for example. Okay, so yeah, overall, right, it works. So far, so good. But what if you are not using Salesforce and you are not using Slack, for example? How would you go about it? Well, it's very simple. You can simply replace these modules in the scenario. So for example, if you are using HubSpot, you would just search for HubSpot as your CRM, and you could just plug it into the scenario and configure the module in the similar fashion like we did for Salesforce, right? So we would be mapping probably slightly different fields and different field names, but the logic is the same. You always need to find your app in the supported apps portfolio, and then you just map whatever you need to pass to that system. The fact that it did not work for me here is that my connection is expired. So Normally in the real life, you would have fresh connection and it would work. What if you need to introduce more logic to the scenario? Let's say, if the lead is using free Gmail account or Yahoo or Hotmail, you want to send a notification on Slack. But if that lead is not using any of these free services, you want to send an email or Gmail to your manager. So for these instances, we have a little bit advanced features. For example, router you could use to introduce the conditional logic into your scenario flow. So here I would say, I want to send the Gmail under certain conditions. Let me remove this. And how would you go about specifying the conditions? So you could say, continue this route only if this filter is met. So you would say, if email address contains Gmail, you can even copy these items, or Hotmail, or Yahoo, then we will send a Slack notification. And otherwise, we can say, hey, this is the fallback route, for example, or we could introduce more conditions. Otherwise, send the email, right? So, of course, we would have to configure this module. So you would have to add a recipient, subject. Subject would be something like LinkedIn lead. And you could put, for example, the company name directly into the subject. And in similar fashion, you would build your content, which is the email body. And by introducing this router, you basically built an if function within your flow, right? You said, hey, if these leads are using free services, just push them to Slack as notification. But if it's probably a business user, which may have higher value than the free guys, push them to Gmail. So someone else, jumps on the opportunity faster than maybe people monitoring the general Slack channel. All right. So this is how we work with Make. It's fairly simple. Again, not a developer. This is all doable within, few hours if you are just starting with Make. In the real life, this scenario would take me, 20 minutes to build, maybe with testing. So fairly simple. Let's move to the second scenario now. So once we finally have our leads in the CRM, in my case, Salesforce, we want to push the good leads back from Salesforce to LinkedIn, right? So let's assume that the lead is living in your Salesforce instance and your sales teams, or maybe just you are processing the leads, right? And eventually you win, right? The leads sign the contract, there is money coming to your bank account, and you sold your thing. In that case, you would likely set that the lead is in closed converted status because it's a win for you, right? And in the ideal world, you may want to push this information from your Salesforce account to LinkedIn to tell LinkedIn, hey, this person which you got me, 2 weeks ago was a good one, and I need to get more of these. So we would build an audience of these good leads, and then LinkedIn would either target them again, or maybe you would just use a lookalike audience to get more similar people. So, my work in Salesforce is now done. My lead status has been changed. Traditionally, you would probably take these good leads every week, or maybe every month, or every day, and manually compile a CSV of them and push them to Salesforce, to LinkedIn via a manual upload, which is quite painful, to be honest, and there could be many mistakes made on the way. But with Make, you can automate even this process. And for that, I have prepared a second scenario. So let me locate it. Again, it's in the webinar folder. It's this one. And this second scenario is even simpler than the first one. Because what this scenario is doing, it's watching for recently edited leads. And then if the recently edited lead went into the closed converted status, I will push that lead to LinkedIn matched audiences. And again, the mapping process is similar here. What's great about matched audiences is the fact that you don't really need to provide any click IDs. which you might be used to from some other platforms. But here you can just provide email, and you don't even have to know the name of the lead. These non-bold fields are just optional. You really need to provide just the email. And of course, you need to tell LinkedIn, well, you need to tell us into which audience we want to push that lead. Don't worry, you don't need to provide this ugly looking ID. You can just search for the audience within your available accounts. So I went through my account, and now I can just, select into which audience I want to push that lead. And if I press the OK button, the name would be converted to this ugly looking ID. So now when I run this scenario for real, we will see that my Joe Doe character will be pushed back to LinkedIn. So let's do it. So now we can see that Make was able to locate that recently edited lead, right? Yes, the lead has the closed converted status, which we set in Salesforce 5 minutes ago. And yes, it passed through this filter, and it was uploaded to LinkedIn matched audiences. Unfortunately, here, I cannot really show you anything in my LinkedIn Ads UI because LinkedIn won't allow you to list all the people and all the emails which are members of your audiences. So you just have to trust me on this one. But basically, green means good here, and everything is green, so no failures, and the information really got passed to LinkedIn. Okay, so with this very simple scenario, we solved that problem of how do we get, these good leads back from our CRM to LinkedIn like instantly, without no coding. This scenario would take you 10 minutes to set up. It's really that easy. Okay, now moving on to the third problem, and that's the reporting. Because I guess everyone loves Excel and running the numbers in Excel, right? Or Google Sheets. Okay, so for this piece, I prepared this scenario. Again, fairly simple. I have this blank Google spreadsheet where I want to download data from LinkedIn into these columns, right? So I need date, I need account, campaign name, impressions, clicks, spend, lead form opens, and leads. Fairly basic stuff, which probably all B2B marketers eventually need to get from LinkedIn, right? So when I look at my scenarios, what would it actually do if I ran it? Well, first of all, if this was not blank, I could set it to blank all the existing rows, to clear all the existing rows, right? To just re-download the data from scratch. Then I will generate a report in LinkedIn with these dimensions. So account, campaign. I am gonna filter just for one specific random campaign, but the selection here works as we saw for the audiences. So fairly simple. In the real world, you would probably not filter just for one campaign. You would not use the campaign filter at all. You would just probably download all the campaigns, right? Because you want to see your total spend. Here I specify the daily granularity, which is the date column. And here I am selecting the metrics, which I want to extract into my spreadsheet. So again, fairly simple, nothing too complicated. And finally, I am setting up the start date. So from which date I want to get the data. And here I am leaving the end date field blank, which means that I want to get the data until now, right? The most actual performance. And finally, in this last module, I am again mapping the data retrieved by this reports module, pushing it to my spreadsheet. And I am mapping the account, campaign, impressions, clicks, spend, etc. Don't get too excited. We are not going to show you our real numbers because I am going to randomize my impressions by simply taking the real impressions number and multiplying it by random number. And I do the same for all the other metrics. Here you can see that, again, I'm using the format date function to format the date coming from the LinkedIn module to this format, which is kind of the standard in the ISO world. Okay, so when I run this scenario, I will press this button and I will quickly switch to this blank sheet so you can see how the data is being filled out in the real time. So let's do it. By the way, this campaign name, that's real. This is what we ran actually to promote this webinar. But as I said, these numbers are not real. And we can see that it worked again, right? And all it took was one simple scenario with 3 modules. And maybe the tools you are already using may not be needed anymore, because you can do everything at Make, right? You can solve your leads in Make by getting them from LinkedIn, pushing them to your CRM, then taking them from your CRM, pushing back to LinkedIn. And finally, you can just report with Make 2. So fairly simple. And this is for the demo part, right? So 3 scenarios, 3 challenges, and all solved within 20 minutes. So let me go back to the scenario, to the slides now, and let me wrap up my section. So at the beginning, we identified 3 issues, which were part of the life cycle. How to get the leads from the forms to my CRM, how to get the leads from the CRM back to audiences, so the targeting can be improved. And then finally, how to report on my results, right? Because that's what you want to show, your results. After you report on your results, you are probably going to make some continuous changes to your campaigns at this point, but those campaigns will again continue to generate the forms, right? Then you will process the leads, then you will likely pass some of them, or maybe all of them, back to LinkedIn, and then the circle just goes on and on and on and on forever, right? So this is the life cycle idea. And again, let me restate, I'm not a programmer. Don't think about what I showed you today, that it's something unreachable. It can be done probably within one afternoon. If you happen to find time for this on Friday afternoon, you will likely be able to build these scenarios. So it's really up to you if you take the next step and try to improve your marketing ROI. And now I'm going to pass the word back over to Frank, who will summarize this session. So Frank, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Daniel. All right, very clear. So I guess now it's your turn, folks. So how to move forward? Well, as I said at the beginning, we are proposing for you guys a special offer. You will receive that special offer via email tomorrow. Make sure to check your inbox. So what is that offer? Well, that offer is 3 months free of charge of our Teams plan, which is a very comprehensive plan, with 80,000 operation per month for the new users. Besides this offer, you'll also find in the email the scenario blueprint. This is exactly what Daniel was showing you right there. You'll have that as well, so you can really get going very quickly. If you need some help, you can start from scratch. You can use the blueprint I just mentioned, or you can also use the pre-built templates that Daniel showed you as well. If you need further help, you can consult our help center, ask the support team, or look up one of the many YouTube videos. If it's something that you really don't want to do yourself, but you've got a need for it, we also have at Make have an extensive network of partners who would be able to help you with. And remember, this webinar, we were just demoing LinkedIn, Salesforce, Google, but there's another, I guess, 1,297 other apps that Make can integrate with. Got maybe one last thing to share with you guys, but first, I would really like to thank Ellen and Daniel, both for the partnership as well as for their presentations. Thank you.